It is a good day. It is a good day for a focused Friday.
Focus Friday, y'all. What's
Focus
happening? We
Friday.
live?
We're live.
We're live. What's up, Jamaica Miles?
What's up, Sean Young? How you doing?
Doing all right this morning.
You know,
Woke up feeling good,
as we should.
as we should.
Make a rhyme all the time.
Always a pleasure. Actually, well, I ain't gonna rhyme, but always a pleasure to be here with you on Focus Friday to talk about the things that matter in our community, matter deeply to us. It's always a pleasure to be here with y'all. Also, listening in, sharing your ideas and thoughts. Always much appreciated.
And
a lot going on and a lot to talk about.
there's a lot going on and a lot to talk about. And on this week's Focus Friday Live, a recap of TogetherFest that happened last weekend.
Yeah, TogetherFest was dope.
First Amendment.
I wasn't there.
We're going to talk about it. First Amendment rights for who? Because it's not for everybody. We're going to talk about what that looks like here in America, and safety in our schools and our communities.
Right.
Top three for today. Kicking it off with the recap of TogetherFest.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
TogetherFest.
talk about Together Fest, intentional naming of an event that
Yes.
we held in Schenectady. It's about us being together, being festive. We had great food this Saturday at Sikkim at the corner of Albany and Craig Streets, 837 Albany Street. I think is the specific address.
837, 839.
It's right there.
Be careful
right?
of your
Those
GPS.
Yeah.
Some people ended up in a parking lot.
If you would have put it in your GPS and pulled up, you wouldn't have missed us.
Right. You
right?
heard us.
You wouldn't have missed us from 12 to 2 in Schenectady, brought the community together, had great food, great baked chicken made by one Jamaica Miles and best friend
Amira Singletary. Good morning, Amira.
Always appreciate your cooking. I ain't getting no mac and cheese though.
I'm
just saying.
I
ain't getting no mac and cheese.
Sorry.
Yeah. That sounds like.
Sorry.
Thinking of excuse.
Sorry.
Ain't gonna give me mac and cheese, but I appreciate
it. Goes quick.
Sentiment.
It does go quick, and folks were really all about the dry rub and the baked chicken and salad, and you know it was good. It was good. And there were it wasn't just us there, right? Because Planned Parenthood came with their teen advocates and a whole bunch of information. Electric City Food Co-op was there.
Nice.
And of course,
Electric City Food Co-op.
Information about Sikkim. Like I almost want to go and grab the paper because the Sycamore Collaborative has a whole bunch of information and programs and resources beyond being a food pantry for Schenectady County, serving so many in Schenectady. But they have farms and there's a lot. And we were able to share that information with everybody, as well as talk about voter registration and education.
Which is what we do,
That's
right?
what we do.
Hey, just I want the naming, right? It was Sikkim. They changed the name from Sikkim to Sycamore.
Sycamore Collaborative.
Sycamore Collaborative.
I actually I don't know what that. I don't know why.
Oh,
I'm sure there's a story, and but TogetherFest, we were together, and as always, young folks were there.
That's what I was just about to
go ahead, tell them about
talking
it.
About our young people,
yes,
that showed up, helped men sit at the table, sign people in, serve people food. Shout out to the twins, LeVar and Javar, from the community, been out here forever.
Yeah,
kind of well known. They came through, volunteered with us, brought their young people in as well. Kenneth brought his daughter. It was just like this. That's the whole thing about bringing people together.
Mm-hmm.
You start, it really was a lot of fun with the young people, older people, people across Hamilton Hill and other places. I'm looking forward for the next one because that's what people keep asking me. Where's the next one going to happen?
Coming your way soon.
That's right.
We'll make sure to get the calendar out to folks so that they can plan accordingly. The other piece, like, it's not just that the young folks were there helping, but listening to their voices as young as, 6, 7 years old, had some things to say.
Yeah.
Because we don't believe in silencing folks.
No.
That's not what we do. First Amendment rights that are in this country that supposedly are for everyone, that if you have something to say and you want to say it, especially if it is a grievance with the government, you're supposed to be able to do that. But
one of the founding principles right, of like the Declaration of Independence
It's the
and the
first.
Constitution. It's like, hey,
It's the First Amendment.
yeah.
But the reason we bring this up is
I mean, we
because
already know it ain't always applied equally. So it's applied when you say what I want to hear, what I want you to say, not when I disagree with you. Oftentimes, depending on who's in power and who's not, right?
but it's very similar to what we saw back in 2020, just for a different reason,
Right.
right?
Break that down.
So right now across the country, there are young folks on college campuses causing a fuss and protesting against Israel's attack on Palestine. And its murder of more than, I don't even know where the number is anymore, 35, 36, 40,000 people, as well as well over 10,000 still buried under the rubble, unaccounted for, the overwhelming majority of them being women and children, and college students standing up and saying, stop sending US dollars in the form of bombs and weapons to Israel, not to mention that it goes against both US and international law. But stop sending our resources over there. And just like they've done against the war in Vietnam, just like they did against the war on Iraq, just like they did against segregation, college campuses are a hotbed for protest and calling for justice in this country. And just like those times, they've been told, no, don't don't say this, even though when we get on the other side of it, it becomes the thing that the United States brags about. Our young people led the way, which we saw in 2020, the global uprising for Black Lives Matter, the call for an end to police brutality, state sanctioned violence that we are seeing Israel commit against Palestine, and our young folks being told, nope, you can't talk about that. We were told, hey, yeah, you can have a grievance, but no, you can't talk about police brutality. You can't talk about resources going to the community. Because if you do, we will arrest you.
Yeah.
College students, Jewish college students who are calling for an end to this genocide are being arrested. And it's touted as we're protecting Jews by arresting Jews for speaking against Israel. Make it make sense.
I mean, I don't know if you can, but I think that like history gives us at least a roadmap to kind of understand what's happening today, right?
Yeah, for sure.
When students protested the Vietnam War and America's positioning in that war, and then the killing of so many, and the deaths of so many Americans and so many people from Vietnam and so many others, the college campuses, administration at the college campuses weren't with the students,
Right.
right?
Right.
They weren't with the students then, and they were on the wrong side of history,
Yeah.
right? They've proven out over time on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
When apartheid reigned in South Africa,
Yep.
the students protested and came
Indeed.
out. And administration, once again, was on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
And this is proven out over time in history. We can
Yes.
look back and see, like,
Yep.
wait a minute, yes, apartheid was wrong. We should have never supported apartheid. We should have never been on the side of condemning students for protesting what was clearly a horrible human rights issue in South Africa, and it had been for decades, right? The separation of people. So history gives us kind of some clarity about where we're at today, and and I'm sure that in time, right?
But
I mean,
how
they're
much
wrong now to me.
time?
I don't know how much time, but I know that regardless of what it is, it would be proven out. And once again, you're on the wrong side of history when it comes to the the slaughter, the death toll, the maiming of so many others and so many folks in Palestine.
And the money. Let us never forget the amount of resources being sent by the United States, because to the people who say this isn't our business, why are we worried about it? Because we have poverty, we have hunger, we have housing issues. Our schools still don't have the funding that they need. There's an entire list. Infrastructure. Everyone wants our roads to be fixed and for the pipes to not have lead in them and all of these things that keep us safe. But instead of the government putting those resources in local communities where the local need is. It is bombing and killing
I think it's
Palestinians.
outrageous that
I mean,
while we struggling for dollars to make
yes.
sure children have proper type of education, or
Hmm.
that people that have been historically left out of opportunity get opportunity and all of
Yeah.
that, there ain't no really ain't no money, right? Or we only have this much money to do this, but as
Every
soon
time.
as you need to go to war or send, like, we can send billions at the snap of a
Billions.
finger.
And it has been billions.
Yeah.
Like, let us understand, and not just this year, just billions were spent this year, but
Over
over time,
decades,
over
yeah.
decades, tens of billions of dollars
If not hundreds of billions,
has been
right?
sent to murder people, and again, predominantly civilians. But if we only talk about from October 7th until now, because that's the narrative they want us to play with,
Yeah.
Israel is in the wrong, and those who currently sit in seats of power, many of them are doubling down and pushing to silence us further, to say that if you speak against Israel by itself, it is anti-Semitism, that at the federal level, they're expanding censorship in a country that talks about freedom of speech.
Yeah.
President Biden came on and said, these students, I do support peaceful protest, but you can't do this, you can't do that, he is qualifying how you get to demonstrate, which is the exact same thing that happened to us in 2020. We were told, I'll listen to you if you do it this particular way, which has proven to be a lie, because we did it all of those ways. We showed up and tried to have conversations. We sent in petitions. We had town halls. We had conversations. We asked people to send emails, to make phone calls. All of those things happened. And nothing changed until we showed up in mass and said, look, we're telling you we mean it.
Yeah.
And here we are again. It's not new. And it's for the same reason. We're saying, don't invest in war and violence. Invest in people and communities.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same call. And it's an international global call, just like it was. Palestine stood with us when we saw lynchings of Black folks here. And we are standing with Palestine when they are being beaten, abused, mistreated, all of the things that are happening to them.
It reminds me of a quote from the doctor, right? Which our brother Iman Jamal shared with us not too long ago, where he talks about this devotion to order, and more devotion to order than devotion to justice.
Right.
It's that negative piece, like no agitation,
right?
No matter the circumstance. Be nice.
MLK is the doctor we're talking about.
Yeah. Sorry if y'all didn't
that
know.
Doctor.
Y'all on the wrong channel. If y'all don't know. When I'm talking about the doctor, I mean the doctor.
Yes. Yes.
Martin Luther King. But thank you for that.
Yep.
I think that a lot of what we've seen and what we're continuing to see, we saw in the BLM movement, we saw it, we're seeing now with these protests. All of these red herrings that people put up, right?
Yeah.
All of these, like taking my argument and renaming it or redefining it. You know what I mean? It's all about delegitimizing.
Yeah.
What we're talking about. So someone comes up and says, damn, those children shouldn't be getting killed. Somehow that makes them, speaking up, makes them either anti-Semitic, makes them a bigot, makes them some hateful or a self-hating person, all the different ways that you could talk about it. So instead of wrestling with what we're saying or what the arguments are about why this is wrong, we're talking about everything else. Like right now, I see the students being called all kinds of things by politicians, by state officials, like and
by
like,
the president of the United States,
as
well as by his opponent.
I wish you could pull this up for our viewers to see this.
Okay, so
if you can see it.
No, but we can just.
What do you need to do? Share it.
Just send me the link. So we have fancy stuff that we figured out that we're able to do to be able to share some of the things that we're seeing and talk about it, right? Because here we are having this conversation, and there are videos being recorded every single day. There is independent media that's doing the work, that's ensuring that the voices of those who are trying to be censored are still being heard, including here in the United States. I don't think we can say it enough that in the United States, we are being censored at all levels, that folks are deciding how we get to have grievance with our own government. And it is a grievance with our government when we stand up and say, stop using our resources to send bombs to a country that has been proven to violate human rights. Let's put that out there, because the reality is Israel has been proven to have violated human rights and be enacting genocide against the Palestinian people. It's not a question anymore, and it's not anti-Semitic to say so. So when you've got the video, or if you just tell me the name of the video.
Oh, let me put the link in the. Oh, there it is. It's in the chat.
Oh, look it. We're super fancy now. We're doing all kinds of things. Except it won't let me click on it, so that's great. But as we deal with technical difficulties, what we do know is we are able to continue to talk about. You should have just told me what the name of the video was, by the way.
I mean, yeah, I just sent it to your email, but it's like it's Frontline of U.S. Campus Chaos, and it's reported by Sky News. So there it is. There's the actual title: Gaza protests on frontline of U.S. campus.
This one right here.
There it is. There it is.
So we're gonna share just a small clip with after we get through the commercial, because that's what we love is
use my account next time.
yeah. So it's really great.
So look at what we're seeing here.
We're gonna show this to you right now about what this looks like.
On the USC campus, they've warned students that if they remain here, they will be arrested.
The kids are getting killed.
By Hamas terrorists.
By Hamas terrorists. By Netanyahu and Biden. Jeez.
Sky News has been following them, witnessing the arrests, examining the motives.
Why do you feel so passionately about being here, even though the police are telling you to leave?
Because we know that we're on the right side of this right now.
Are you scared?
No. I think that the children in Gaza are more scared than I am.
From coast to coast.
Do you believe in Israel's right to exist as a country?
I believe in all people's right to freedom and liberation. We are talking about a genocide.
It is cutting deep wedges or exposing existing ones for both sides.
These are pathetic, low-life scumbags.
So what is going on at America's top universities? Protests, encampments, anger and arrests at campuses across the country. Gaza is the catalyst. Israel is the target.
We are calling for a complete divestment by Colombia from any company complicit in Israeli apartheid and colonization in Palestine, and we are calling for amnesty for all of our students.
It began at Columbia on New York City's Upper West Side. The university president had called in the police. She'd concluded that the protesters, in a college with a proud history of protest, represented a clear and present danger to college life. They tried to clear the encampment. They arrested more than 100 student protesters, but it only emboldened the movement. Downtown, at New York University, more arrests. Well, it's the morning after more than 100 people were arrested here at NYU in southern Manhattan, and they've put up barricades now. It's an attempt, I think, to quell the protests, to keep the two sides apart. It's also an attempt to keep out agitators who are unaffiliated with the student movement. But police and university authority policies are not working. This is the University of Texas in Austin. Again, more protests. The presence of anti-Semitic elements within a much wider series of protests has made some Jewish students feel deeply unsafe. They've been compounded by the violent threats of a minority. Distilling what's happening to its simplest, most digestible form is easy. The reality is more nuanced. There are Jewish students among the protesters at all the campuses.
As a Jewish student, I felt completely safe 100% of the time. The police showed up in big force, obviously, did not want us to be there, and they ordered us to break up or they'd stop making arrests.
But back in New York, outside Columbia,
And we came to our homeland, and all of these lunatics.
an angry, offended and worried Jewish community.
As offensive as these people are across the street, agenda number one is to free our hostages. Do not be afraid of being Jewish, especially in New York City. Down with Hamas! Victory for Israel!
The chaos of a war in the Middle East has reverberated so far beyond. Israel, Palestine, an issue seemingly so intractable, it's now confounding law enforcement and splintering the politics.
So I think that, you know, we could have watched even more, but I don't know that it's necessary, right? Again, these are it's reminiscent of 2020. For me, I'm looking at the way the police are interacting with students, with young people, with people who are exercising their First Amendment rights, and they are met with violence and arrest.
And I'm also seeing the conflation of the arguments or the messaging that you know, like for instance, and you know, we're Colin Kaepernick, right? Famously kneeled during football games,
Yeah.
to protest in his own way.
Yep.
Police brutality on the black community,
Yep.
the history of it and
Yep.
the presence of it at that time, and it continues on today. That was what his protest was about, right?
Yeah.
Others joined in
Yep.
the protest, and what was the outrage? What
It's-
was the outrage? So he clearly stated, "This is why I'm kneeling."
Yes, but
during
it
the
was,
national anthem,
you know,
and the
that's
argument, yeah,
it's rude, it's disrespectful.
disrespectful to the troops.
Yes, yep. Even though military actually have came out at that time and said, I fought so that you can have the right
Yeah, many in the
to
military
express
did.
yourself.
But the thing is that it's always helpful
Yeah.
for us to have like some clarity. And that's why I said I look at history and it gives you some clarity about the moments. Like you have this brother who and he was
Ostracized.
jumped out of the
Yeah.
NFL, ostracized, made a pariah, called all kinds of things, couldn't get back in the league for anything. That's why I don't watch NFL to this day because of it. I've lost a lot. I love the game.
Yeah.
Can't support the network. But if you look at that story, you look at what the young people are saying about stopping the killing, stopping the mass murder of so many people.
Yeah.
It turns into, oh, you hate Jews then. You're a scumbag, as Michael Rappaport said in the
Right.
to the media.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be Jewish is what like they're like, what are you, who's telling anyone to be afraid to be Jewish? Now,
No
I'm not
one.
like,
No.
so this is what I'm saying. These conflation of these arguments
Yeah.
it's insane to
Yep.
like to see it in the way I've been seeing it. Like I watched who I consider to be, you know, very good people, right? At a time, like doing good things in the community, you know, at least on a level, right?
Yep.
Doing some stuff, turn into absolute like looking at this situation, like, no, we have to continue what's going on, and we have to, you know, and like fully buying into the propaganda that it's necessary to kill this many people in order to succeed in the agenda of a free Israel. And it's just like
We are a country built on violence.
yeah, we're built on violence.
And
But we're also
are
built on storytelling that we're not.
and it is maintained
Yeah.
by violence, right? It is law and order controlling individuals' movements, their thoughts, their ideas, deciding what is the fight that we had before this happened, whether or not what history could be told and how it's told.
Yeah.
That if it makes you feel guilty as a white person, then we can't talk about it. And that is subjective based on the individual. Florida, help us, someone, please. But it's not just Florida. Like it's the easy target because they're usually out in front. Thank you, Ron DeSantis. But that is the thing, right?
Yeah.
And the same is true of Israel. I've said this before. Israel looked to America and has taken every cue how it is going to exist and has been fully supported by the government of the United States in every step that it has made in the exploitation of people, in the stealing of land, of determining whose rights are valuable and whose are not, in creating physical, institutional, and systemic barriers to groups of people, to using state sanctioned violence and law.
I was about to say they took cues from America, which is a colonial settler project, but also don't forget that they were one of the, as a country goes, one of the staunchest supporters of apartheid South Africa.
Yes.
So they also allowed the cues from South Africa and the
Yeah.
work that they've done, which in turn took a lot of cues from the U.S. and how segregation at a time, like there's a whole entire history here that people aren't that familiar with, and they need to be. If you really want to understand your world, man, get familiar with some history.
In
Like,
the full
seriously,
history,
yeah, get familiar
especially
with
the
some
part
history. It'll be helpful.
that may be uncomfortable, because if we
Yeah.
don't know it, we will repeat it. Or for some, because they know it, they
No,
repeat
it's
it.
repeated intentionally because it's it's beneficial to
Yeah.
folks in power to maintain control and order in a particular direction. It is what it is.
And
But
Dr. Saheed points out our country is not heading in the right direction. The students are exposing more of the ugly face of our government.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. Saheed. I agree for sure.
And so, as we sit here witnessing yet again the silencing of voices in the United States, in a country that says it's about freedom, a country, and when I say the country, its current leadership also said that Israel is this democratic country, which obviously not, silencing folks, including the media. On the idea, or trying to create a narrative that it's about safety, right? So what has been used time and time again is, we're doing this to keep people safe. We have to silence students because it's not safe. We have to bomb civilians to keep people safe. This idea of safety in our countries, that we face, not just in this moment on campuses, but in our public schools and our communities every single
I want
day.
you to notice something, right? Safety and security are buzzwords that have been used historically to justify all kinds of horrible acts.
Yeah.
In this country and other places.
Yep.
We're doing this to be safe.
For who?
Right?
Whose safety?
We're lynching these men in these communities because they're a threat and a danger.
Right. And
to our community.
And then those
right?
that call them to task, Ida B. Wells,
Yeah.
that reported all the stories of lynchings and spoke up against it, had her press burned down, her life threatened.
It's the illest psychological game in the world. It's like that saying where they talk about the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convince people that he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The greatest trick we ever pulled in this country, right, is
Yeah.
to convince everyone else that we ain't the most violent people.
Yeah.
Violent country the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
It is violence that not only violence, but it is definitely the threat of violence that keeps the social order structure in place the way it is. And people are made to fear speaking out. And right now, what we're seeing in this current iteration of people like pushing back against the standards set by the elders is this pushback that is being what's the word I'm looking for? That's being kind of used by the powers that be to condemn, to arrest,
right,
to ostracize, to other, right? Yeah. And it's been very effective for so many people. People quickly like to jump on the bandwagon, like, oh, I seen some kids chanting USA, USA at a protest that had nothing to do with the condemning of the US, but like saying that we're trying to stop what's happening here, right?
Right.
Like, no, like it's insane. It's insane.
We decide who gets to be violent and who gets to be violent against who. because
right.
there is violence all the time, and we speak out against that violence, because the other piece that will happen is you're not talking about gun violence in the Black community. We do. We do talk about it, and the conditions in which it happens, and that we don't want that either. But don't look at us and tell us we don't understand why you're violent when y'all came in violent into our community and you use violence against us, but tell us not to be violent.
Like I said, the greatest trick ever pulled.
We're not supposed
we
to
can project all this on you while we do all the things we say we don't want you to do.
It makes no sense.
Pulled, man.
And to then ignore the data that tells us what it truly takes to create community safe, right? Because there's all this research done by a whole bunch of, academics and civil rights leaders, folks who have been doing it even longer than us, and who say when there's an increase in home ownership, there's a decrease in crime overall. That when you invest in a community in its economics, there's a decrease in crime, including violent crime, because the definition of what violent crime is also subjective.
Yeah, it's a decrease in reports of crime and an increase in feelings like quality of life.
And in our schools, when there is an increase in social workers, counselors, after school programs, wraparound services, food, like when those things increase, we see an increase in attendance, an increase in graduation rates, an increase in grades, and a decrease in suspensions, expulsions, and violence.
Yeah.
So we do know what it takes to have a safer society in our schools, on our college campuses, and in our communities. But it does not benefit those who are in power to actually give us those things.
It's a tradition that's been passed down generation after generation, and changes happen slowly, but change happens because people like these students, people like many in our community, they were willing to stand up, agitate, yell and scream that this has to stop, and it will continue to go on. And I'm very proud to be at least some support in those efforts.
Yeah.
So what do we got going on?
Well, first, I want to also give us a shout out to the UAlbany students that had their protest and held ground and had a teach-in and really did an amazing job. Looking forward to those young people and the activities that they continue, because there is stuff happening locally. While we are fighting and protesting for change, we also are finding moments for joy and education.
Yeah.
So starting tonight, the third annual Art Money celebration birthday bash is happening from 7 to 11 p.m.
Really?
Yes, Art Money, what up? Third annual, I can't believe it's been 3 years already.
Art Money.
That's right, that hat right there. And then this Sunday, there's a couple different things happening. In Schenectady, the Phil Grigsby Crop Hunger Walk from Sycam, aka the Sycamore Collaborative. And then in Albany, financial literacy. We all need it.
Yeah.
We all should be able to take part in it. From 1 to 5 p.m. at the Blake Annex, the FinLit 518 conference is happening. On Wednesday, May 8th, there's going to be a pro-Palestine action in Albany. All of these things that we're talking about, you're going to be able to find on our page. As a matter of fact, at 12 noon, there's a post that goes up that says, hey, remember those things that were talked about? Here's the link so you can go and get more information about them. I do want to shout out Adonis, aka Lucid Voices, who during Poetry Month had a whole bunch of things going on. And just because Poetry Month is over, it doesn't mean that it stops. And so on Saturday, May 18th, you, me, and poetry, Adonis doing his thing, lifting up the voices of local poets. I may or may not read a poem that day. We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Sometimes, Adonis always reaches out and invites me, and I appreciate that. I still get nervous reading out loud, but but there's stuff happening, because If we don't have hope and joy,
Mhm.
what the hell are we fighting for?
What are we fighting for? That's the thing that we always need to remind ourselves, that we in
Indeed.
this fight, but we also fighting for something. And
Yeah.
it's that joy. It's that liberation feeling of being in community and not being oppressed or people exploiting, others in our community.
Indeed.
It's a powerful feeling. So much love, y'all.
We will be
Appreciate this
back
conversation. We'll be back
next Friday.
next Friday.
Focus Friday, 8 a.m. See y'all then.